It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy.
WeatherTech.
Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
For one last time here in this hot July weather down at Virginia International Raceway, we're going to go racing as we get ready for race number 2 for the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America by Yokohama. It is the GT3 Cup Series on hand. I'm Joe Peak with Ryan Marine once again. And the drivers ready to go after yesterday gave us a real stunner of a race. The bar is high, Ryan.
It was fantastic, wasn't it, Joe? We had a really good show, and a big part of that show was Ashley Freiberg, who had to start at the very back because of a penalty in qualifying, and she put on a display of overtaking for us that was just spectacular, driving her way up onto the class podium, ended up 6th overall. Good news for her. She has a little less work to do here today to get a podium, maybe something a little bit more. But you know what? Elsewhere in the field, we had good battles, too, with Mark Bowden taking the win in the Masters class for 992, and that was in dramatic fashion as well. And we had some drama, it's worth saying, in the 991 class. So, you know what? I think the table is set for another classic here today.
Yeah, it sounds like for those not aware, Tony Melito was given the win after initially Niels Meissner crossed the finish line first. So that was due to a penalty given to Niels, I believe, for contact at one point earlier in the race. Also, we can't forget about Jared Thomas here on our screen there on the front row, who stomped the field. His time at COTA seems like a bit of a blip in form now. It was quickly corrected, and once again, he is the man to beat in this field. Also, one small note, unfortunately, Dave Musial Sr. will not be able to take part in this race, apparently. So we'll be one less for today's event, but I don't think that will rob us of any excitement out there on the track, as you can see them lined up and ready to go. This is the last race of the weekend for the series here at VIR, so if anybody wants to get something done, they've got to do it now.
Yep, that's right. And, you know, earlier you were asking about the excitement of the fireworks yesterday. No excitement at the very front, to your point about what Jared Thomas did. He was in firm control. He had Paul Bocuse doing his best to give chase, but Paul just didn't quite have the same pace. But today is a new day, and to your point, there is that motivation to get things done because we've got a couple of weeks off until the next round at Watkins Glen, and you don't want to leave into a break with a bitter taste in your mouth.
Exactly. Well, the USA West Series will be back in 1 week's time off on the opposite coast at Laguna Seca. We'll take a bit of time off and come back for Watkins Glen here for the North America Series in just a little bit of time as the engines have now fired up down there on the grid. So I guess it's time that we likewise go through who is going to be starting in this race and where for today's event. Jared Thomas is going to be starting on pole once again with Bocuse, trying to see if he can make up for yesterday's race and beat him this time. He's still looking for that first win of the season. Mark Bowden going to be starting, Joel Johnson going to be starting in third with Ashley Freiberg in fourth. Her impressive quick laps in that race, getting her up in position. Bowden going to be starting fifth, actually. And then you get to Dave Musial Jr., well, Dave Musial 2.0, as he likes to be called, starting in sixth for Forward Motorsports. Then you get on to row four. Conrad Geis going to be starting in seventh today with Tim Kesman coming in eighth position for also that Fall Line Motorsports in the 992 Masters class. And then in row five, it's going to be John Gilliland, who starts next to Niels Meissner there in the 991 category. Ryan?
And Eagles runner-up after that penalty yesterday. The man who headed him in 991, Tony Melito, lines up in the 11th spot, has Jody Miller alongside, part of the 992 Masters class. That's row number 6. We head to row 7 now, where Teresa Lalou had a great battle with Ashley Freiberg yesterday. She's due to line up in the 13th spot alongside the equally colorful car of Scott Blend. That's 13th and 14th. Row number 8, Frank Vitiello. He's had an up-and-down weekend. He starts 14th today. Rob Walker was in the middle of the fight yesterday, and he'll start on the outside of that 8th row. To the 9th row now, where you find Shane Leathers from Forward Motorsports and Eric Lapp, who's been strong at times over the course of this weekend. One to keep an eye on. John Manship starts back in the 10th row next to Grady Willingham.
Then we get to row 11, where Thomas Herb's going to be starting in 17th, as Daniel Ammon will begin from P18 back there for the Vintage Racing Company. Saw him prepping the car for this one. Hopefully it'll perform a little bit better as Gregory Shermer starts in 18th, and Francisco De Jesus will join us in 19th. So that is your field out there today, and we are ready to go for this event. We are joined as well by the fantastic talent of Luke Hartog. Well, welcome up into the booth. What have you thought about the racing out here at VIR this weekend?
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. The track is great, really great venue, very high committed track, I would say, so definitely a challenge for the drivers. No margin for mistakes, if you ask me, so definitely I think it's going to be exciting racing again.
You're one of those that's come through the Porsche ladder system and working through the various Carrera Cup and Super Cup races out there. This is maybe a step lower than that. What do you make of some of the drivers that we've got in this series?
No, I think definitely it's a huge stepping stone and basically the bottom of the pyramid that Porsche offers. So all drivers here have really a chance to get familiar with the material, basically, to then go into Carrera Cup, for example, then into the higher ranks of GT racing. So definitely offers a great platform to make the mileage. I
know you spent a lot of your time racing over in Europe. Have there been many tracks over here in the States that you've gotten to drive yet?
Oh, yes, definitely. A lot of testing involved also, this far in the season. A lot of great tracks that we've driven on so far. So, yeah, I'm really liking the characteristics here. So it's been great fun so far.
Well, we're definitely going to pick your brains for some insight in a bit. But right now, we get ready to go racing as they are lined up 2 by 2 coming out of Hogpen. Jared Thomas will have control once again, but surely Paul will be trying to steal that lead away as early as he can so that that red, white, and blue machine does not get away from him. Look at how close they are bundled up, almost actually touching there behind him with Joel Johnson pushing our leader along. They come up to the flag stand waiting for the signal, and there it is. Green flag is out as it's a good jump for our pole sitter, Jared Thomas. Joel Johnson also wants to try and push himself up forward in that Masters 992 category to hold on to the lead. They'll siphon into the first corner. It looks like there was a little bit of a slide there, And in fact, I think that was Johnson, Ryan, who went off.
Yeah, I think you're right. There was some contact there in the fight for third overall. One car off in the background. Looks like that is Johnson. Boy, that's a big disappointment. He'll have some work to do to get back into the fight here today in this short race. 35 minutes plus 1 lap. Wow, 3 wide into left hook there. That could have ended badly. Instead, they sort themselves out and get single file headed into Snake for the first time at speed.
I think that was Geis and Gilliland that were just about sandwiching another third car, and thankfully they all made it through. Not often you can even make it through 2 wide.
I think we're missing Ashley. It's actually Ashley that got caught there in turn 1. So it looks like she's having to do the same exact job that she did yesterday. So coming now from the back.
Good catch on that, Luke. It looks like it's going to be hard work all over again. Already look at how much Jared is stretching it over Paul here, and we've only completed about half of the first lap. Flying down the backstretch now, I think, is that Mark Bowden in third overall?
Very well could be. Mark had that great run yesterday, winning in class. Of course, this is a track where he's had some success previously, having won an SCCA Runoffs National Championship here back in 2019. But look at that traffic there, deeper in the pack. Boy, it is awfully close. Tough place to go side by side through this section of the track, and they do wisely get single file.
See Niels Meissner in the brightly colored car. Looks like I think he has moved himself up to the point. Oh, in his class as a car going off into pit lane. Actually, is that Johnson who is abandoning? I think it is. Something has gone wrong.
Well, and you wonder, too, if there was contact there with Freiberg on the opening lap, if maybe there's something amiss with the car, maybe he's preemptively serving a penalty. We'll have to wait and see if we can get some confirmation as to what happened there. But it shakes up the order at the front of this field. It really doesn't affect Jared Thomas much.
And 227 has been reviewed.
Definitely, I think it can be an issue with the radiator there for Johnson. So the cars have the radiator installed at the front end. So definitely, if there was contact, this can definitely be an option.
So we just heard from race control as well. 227, it sounds like, getting a penalty, and it was contact. So, Luke, you were right. Ashley Freiberg getting sent down to 20th, I saw, as she came across the line. And pretty much the exact same scenario as yesterday, now having to fight through the field with 32 minutes left on the clock. Bowden third overall, but leading in Masters. How about Dave Musial 2.0? He's moved that 225 car onto the podium now.
Yeah, good job by him. It's been a tough day for that team, as you mentioned, with his father not being able to take part in this race. But now I think we're going to have to put our eyes on the back of this pack and try and see how much ground Ashley Freiberg can make up. Luke, you're the current points leader in Carrera Cup North America. How impressed were you with what Ashley did coming from the back to finish 6th overall, 3rd in class yesterday?
Yeah, I'm happy that I actually could see the onboard because it was great fun watching her basically go through the field. So definitely she made up a lot of places. Kind of difficult because a lot of these drivers are still doing their first year in Carrera Cup or in Sprint Challenge with the 992. So it was actually hard for her to predict some spaces, but she managed well. So lap by lap, she caught 1, 2, 3 guys per lap. So it was very impressive to see from my standpoint of view.
Right now we're watching on board with her, and she's got a very good run coming down the main straight. Let's see if she can make an overtake. This bright blue machine in front of her. It looks like, I think that is going to be Eric Lapp in the 297 who goes defensive. And in fact, he looks like he's more making an attack coming up into the horseshoe. He's going to hold ahead of Ashley, but he nearly got a spot instead there, Ryan.
Yeah, really, really close to, a couple of different positions changing hands here. Ashley's got to be so frustrated to think that she has to do this all over again. When we spoke with her after the race, as she moves to the inside of lap and does pick up another spot. Yesterday, she pointed out there were a lot of close calls in that race. She knows how lucky she was to make it through cleanly and make up the ground that she did. And she's going to have to take those kinds of risks again to get a good representative result that will keep her in the championship battle.
Up the Snake they climb, through the S's, and into Oak Tree once more. Boy, it is spread apart at the top. Already last time at the line, Thomas had stretched it to about 2.3 seconds with Paul trying to catch him. Meanwhile, we're going to see whether or not Freiberg can get down to the inside of Grady Willingham here in the 201. He is not within class, but obviously in her way, and looks like that's actually going to be a nice, easy pass down the backstretch.
Yeah, that's a good exit by her. Now she has a bit of a clear gap. Hopefully she can push out some good lap times. Yesterday we saw that she was roughly 2.5 seconds faster than the guys in the mid-pack. So I'm pretty sure next lap she will be having people in front of her again to overtake.
As the 2 leaders flash past us at the start-finish line, it's a long wait before we get back down to Bowden, as he's about 9 seconds off the lead already. Dave Musial in that 2:25, still holding on to third. This would be his second podium as he got his maiden one back at COTA in race 2. And the good news for him is the next driver back, Conrad Geiss, well, he's separated by Tim Kesman and John Gilliland currently. So, Ryan, he's got a bit of a buffer.
He does. And for Conrad Geiss, that's a story we told some yesterday. But if you weren't with us on that broadcast, he's been forced to go to a backup car here this weekend. Had a big crash earlier in testing in the build-up to this weekend. And it's actually, the backup chassis is Ashley Freiberg's old chassis that she was running when she was striving for that MDK Motorsports team. She's with her new team this weekend, Kelly Moss, and has done very well in that new environment. But it's interesting, the connection between those two drivers. We saw them fighting for position late in the race yesterday, and the irony is that Conrad was in the car that was occupied by Ashley for the first 3 rounds of the season.
And on top of it, that she had to pass it on the last lap to
Right.
get to the podium. But I'm sure it felt pretty sweet from inside the cockpit as we watch the top 3 down the back straightaway once again and into roller coaster. You can see how much quicker these GT3 Cup cars are than the Caymans that we had earlier this morning, carrying tons of speed, Luke, down the backstretch.
Yeah, I think we can also see a very exciting battle happening for P5 there. It's John Gillard who's actually making up quite a bit of time to Tim Kesman. So definitely in the top 5 there's also still battles going on. Actually we have them now on screen, now going through the S's, so kind of, or actually through Hawks Bend, coming onto the main straight now. Yeah, this is also a battle to watch.
So they'll complete the latest lap, and yeah, it's not just John Gilliland in there, but you mentioned Tim Kesman that's in a bit of a battle. That is for the second and third spots in Masters, so this is definitely a good one to keep an eye on. Kesman, the one in the front that you see in that silvery machine, and then it's hard to miss Gilliland. He's got a giant cow on the side.
It does stand out, that's for sure. He's right there, the meat in the sandwich, with Conrad Geiss nipping at his heels. These 3 that you see on screen, Kesman in front, Gilliland in the middle, Geiss in third. The top 2 in this group are fighting for class position. Geiss needs to clear these 2 to get to the next car in his class. That's Dave Musial, who continues to hold that 3rd spot, which, if he could hold it, would match a season-best finish.
Yeah, it's very difficult to overtake on this track. I think the best opportunities you have are at turn 1. And then it's a track easy to make mistakes. So maybe you can profit from someone's mistakes. Maybe Oak Tree if you're daring to take it up the inside there. But definitely I think what we're seeing now is people waiting out their chances, waiting for a mistake. It's a demanding track for the drivers as well. So I think definitely some mistakes will happen in the coming 26 minutes. So we'll see some changes in positions.
Now, Luke, you, in addition to Carrera Cup this year, you're doing GT World Challenge Europe as well, correct, for Rutronic?
Yeah, that's correct.
And next track on the schedule, it's the 24 Hours of Spa in a couple of weeks' time. I've heard a couple of people compare this place to Spa. Do you think it's a fair comparison?
Yeah, I think it's up there, definitely. This is definitely not to the FIA standards, but actually we as drivers, we really like that. We don't care too much about safety. Of course, it's a very important element in the sport. But no, very excited for that one. It's the biggest event for me this year. The GT3 materials we're driving with are also very nice equipment. I'm driving the Porsche 992 GT3R there. So no, looking very ambitious for that race.
Not too far from your hometown, presumably, too. You have a lot of friends and family there?
Yeah, actually we do, but it's still a country apart.
Sure.
I mean, over here it's not so much of a difference. Actually, we see Ashley making up a move again there. I think that's for position 13, 12 even, so she's doing a great job. But no, coming back to Spa, I have some family and friends coming over, but still it's far away from home.
Well, that was round 2, if you will. That was Teresa Liu that she passed. This time it didn't take quite as many laps, I think. But it's a little bit earlier in the race as well. Next up on the list is going to be Scott Blend, Tony Melito, and Jody Miller, all three not in the class of Ashley Freiberg. In fact, I think that's going to put her 5th in class, if I'm seeing correctly, with that pass. So she's made up a lot of ground early, but I think now she's discovering a huge gap before she gets back to Conrad Geiss. Again, going to be the driver she's going to have to pass for 4th in her old car.
And she's got a lot of cars to pass before she can get there. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out-of-class cars that she'll need to get, plus just to catch him. Boy, it's going to be a tough task, that's for sure. But we know from yesterday she could do it. 24 minutes plus 1 lap still to go as Jared Thomas shows the way out in front. The gap at the line the last time by was 2.5 seconds, and to my eye, that has grown. Paul Bocuse fighting on gamely, but he's now in the 2nd spot and has lost a little bit more time.
Not much, though.
No.
It's less than a 10th slower, which is a credit to Paul because I think it was something around 13 seconds at the end of the race last time. So if he can hold on to this in a similar pace, that'll at least be an improvement, although it won't show in terms of points.
Definitely. The drivers do have a possibility to put new tires on for race 1 or 2, so this can also be a difference in strategy. So it can be that Paul used their old set yesterday and now the new set of tires, whereas Jared could have done exactly the opposite. Actually, interestingly enough, Ashley has a lot of cars to pass, but she's putting out purple sectors now, so she's definitely charging through.
Wow. So I guess clearing some of the drivers that she was before has freed her up. And in fact, I'm seeing about 6 tenths behind Scott Blend, so she may have actually already caught him. We'll have to watch and see next time they come by. As on screen, we continue to see Jared Thomas over Paul Bocuse. And then it is a gap of 13 seconds now down to Mark Bowden. But again, that is not in class. Dave Musial is our next driver in the Pro-Am, sitting 3rd in that category.
Well, Geiss clear of Gilliland. That puts him now just 1 car away from Musial. He's about 2 seconds behind in that fight for the final step of the podium. That would be a big result for Conrad if he could get it done, given the way that this week started. I'll tell you what, I mean, he's had a good attitude about it the whole time. We caught up with him earlier in the weekend before the racing began. He was getting the backup car all sorted. He was getting, the seat fitted just right, the pedals the way he wants them, things like that. And he was pretty philosophical about the whole thing. It wasn't a huge mistake, but it was one that had major consequences. But he put it all behind him, and he's had good pace here today.
He's another one that's coming in pretty new to racing, and this is his first professional season. Actually had his best finish so far back at race 2 at COTA with a 4th place. So he is knocking on the door of those podiums. Conrad taking a 5th last time out as well. If he could just step that one more up, he'll get to spray the champagne for the first time. As they cross the line, looks like, did we already see Ashley come through? Yeah, she's already passed Blend. Next up on her list is going to be Tony Melito. In fact, that was less than a 10th apart, so I'm going to guess she made a move down into turn 1.
Probably true. Melito, is that right there behind her on the screen?
Yep, that is Melito behind her. And then in front, that is Jody Miller. And look at the cutback here as she's going to try and see if she can set him up through the snake. She's right there, but you got to be brave trying to go side by side. Coming into the climbing S's, I don't think she's got the presentation for that, though she at least tries to remind him she's still there.
Love this onboard shot through this section of the track, and to have the telemetry, you can see what a dance it is. Wheel and pedals both working all those inputs just to keep that car under her, putting her in a position where she can go on the attack here in Oak Tree, late on the brakes, scything up the inside, and she'll grab that spot.
It's a very impressive move to see. It's from a driver's perspective. You always, if you're going through the field like she is, want to be as soon as possible on the attack. As soon as you're getting comfortable in someone's mirrors, people always tend to be a little bit more are able to predict a little bit more where you're going. So I think that's definitely this is what she's doing now. She's going through everyone. One by one, and as soon as she's knocking on the door, she's trying to send it. Actually, a good place to do it.
Right now we're watching Therese Lou and Shane Leathers in a little bit of a fight. Actually, I think Leathers closer to Rob Walker behind him, but that's not in the same class. Shane and Therese fighting for 13th currently down there in the overall positions. Looks to be about 5th and 6th in the Pro-Am class. Here is Conrad. And Conrad is up to Tim Kesman. In fact, he can now see Dave in that bright green machine just in front of him. This is a fantastic drive right now from Conrad.
This is really, really cool to watch. He needs to clear Kesman's out-of-class car. Tim won't want to give way, though, because John Gilliland isn't too far behind, and that's the next car in class that Tim needs to deal with. But for Conrad, he can see that first podium right out the windshield. That has to be great motivation to know that's the car you need to get on the podium for the first time this year.
Yeah, absolutely. He's right up there. He's now following closely. It's a hard pass to make, especially what I just said is he's already driving for a big part of the race here behind Kesman. So there's definitely some predictability from Kesman to see where Conrad is going. So I think it will be a hard pass to make, but definitely it's doable. Motivation is there.
And Gilliland driving so hard, he's knocked his camera a little bit loose, apparently. We'll have to try and get that fixed for the next race. But no time now as they go down through the roller coaster once again. And now they are pretty much nose to tail with Dave, Tim, and Conrad getting ready to complete the latest lap. Who's going to get the run coming off of Hogpen? Does look like Geis is going to be in position to try and get this pass done. They flash past us down into the first corner. Let's see as he presents himself to the inside. Can he get the overlap as they move into the corner? He's given space, but he's not quite there.
Needs a little bit of a better run out of Hogpen in order to make that move next time by. Has to settle back in line. That brings Gilliland back into the fight. Kesman now going from defense to offense as he's on the back of that green car driven by Dave Musial. And then keep in mind, Ashley Freiberg has now cleared Niels Meissner. She's up to 8th overall now and not very far behind this battle, only about 5 or 6 seconds. And as we saw yesterday, she can make up that kind of a deficit relative to this group in 2 or 3 laps.
Not only that, but if this group starts battling, that's going to slow them down even more, which will help her out. But we'll see. This is the onboard view right now, so can't quite make out the specs up ahead of those cars. Maybe just a bit too far back. We'll see if they start to show in the windscreen later on. But the clear track does mean that now she can put her foot down and try to rifle off some quick laps.
That'll be the goal, trying to erase that deficit. I know, Luke, this is not on the Carrera Cup North America schedule this year here at VIR, but is this a place you'd like to race one day?
Oh, absolutely. I said this already from the first day we went testing here. I would love to actually drive my first few laps around here in the 992.
Have you been able to be in a car here yet, or have you just been coaching?
No, I've just been coaching here this weekend, so unfortunately not been able to be in the car. I've been coaching in the GT4 races, so I try to basically prove my worth there.
For sure, and it has to be helpful for you too, even if you're not in the car, to come to these new tracks, to be able to experience them almost vicariously through the drivers that you're coaching. That has to help you in your development too, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think coaching has been a huge aspect in my personal development as well. I think it's very essential. They always say if you're able to teach something, it's the best way to learn for yourself. So yeah, definitely it has been a big part into my development as well.
Saw a little bit of an attempt there from Conrad, nearly managing to make the pass into turn 1 once again. Seems like where he's strong in comparison to Kesman, but can't quite get it done. Again, Kesman's not in his class, but he is keeping him from being able to attack Dave Musial for a potential first podium in his career. It looks like Gilliland is still holding on to the back of him. Last time across the line, Ashley still at about 5.4 seconds away from John Gilliland.
But she ran her fastest lap of the race the last time by. It looks like at a 149.924. Only 3 drivers are in the 149 bracket. It's the top 2, Thomas and Bocuse and Freiberg. That's it. Everyone else at a 150 or higher, and just about everybody in the 151s or higher. So she's got such great speed, and you have to wonder what could have happened, what race we would have had at the front of this field had she not been tagged there on the opening lap.
Yeah, she's now lapping second fastest lap times of the field at the moment. But then I would say Paul Bocuse still has the fastest lap of the race. So it would have been very exciting to watch these 3 getting along.
Yeah, that fastest lap difference between Bocuse and Thomas is all of about 0.04 of a second apart from one another. That's how tight they are on pace this time, with the gap now going up to about 3.6 between them on the track itself. Mark Bowden, who is third overall, is now 23 seconds behind. But we saw this yesterday as well, Ryan, that both Jared and Paul just seem to be a step above everybody else.
That's very true. They've separated themselves. It's a pretty massive gap between the top 2 back to Mark Bowden, who's running a pretty lonely third overall and leading in his class. And I think Mark will take it after the heroics yesterday. He got the drama out of his way. In the meantime, we've got battles here. This is quite a bit further back in the pack. I think that's Therese Lelou who's involved at the back of this train, and maybe, Joe, you can help me identify the other 2.
Yeah, that's actually Blend. Chasing Miller and Meissner's. Now, Meissner's in the 991, in fact, leading the 991s right now. So his fight is absolutely not with these guys. Tony Melito's the next one back by about 4 positions. So if anything, he could allow Blend by, but it depends on how he's feeling, and if Scott is going to be a hindrance if he starts to attack him. They go up into Oak Tree now, and honestly, right now, Blend probably trying to focus mostly on catching Jody Miller.
Saw a little bit of dust kicked up there on the outside of Oak Tree. It's pretty easy to do. That's been a common spot for some drama over the course of this weekend, but everyone able to keep it pointed straight here by and large this time. Under 13 minutes to go, plus 1 lap, of course, with Thomas continuing to lead. But this is our fun battle right here. We're checking back in with Dave Musial in the green car. Then it's Kesman, followed by, well, Kesman has dropped behind Geis now. Is that right? Has Geis gotten clear? I think that is the case.
I think you might be right. We'll see in a second once they come past us. And you are correct. Instead, it's Gilliland who is trying to see if he can fight for that second place in Masters class. Doesn't look like he's quite close enough. And see that dark-colored car? Once again, Ashley Freiberg has been the jaws and the ears of these drivers.
Well, I was thinking with a dark-colored car, you could cue the Darth Vader music, right? Very ominous coming up in the rearview mirror, the way that she's coming with such speed. And now the question becomes, how long does it take her to clear this out-of-class traffic? Because the next 2 are for class position. Once she clears Gilliland and Kesmet, then it's Geis and Musial, and then she could have back-to-back podiums effectively from the back of the pack. Wow, big moment there. Holy smokes. John Gilliland had his hands full, and now Freiberg's going to take it side by side, and Gilliland wisely backs out.
Yeah, he knows that she's in the Pro-Am, he's in the Masters, so after that moment, he probably just wants to try to bring this car home. Great save from John in that situation. Ashley now up into 7th overall. Remember, she was 6th overall at the end of last race. Still needs to pass Tim Kesman and catch Geis and Musial, who are probably now focused on one another, trying to decide who will be that last step of the podium. Great exit, though, on the backstretch for Ashley already. Could she get by Kesman here?
I think there's a pretty good chance of it. She looked to the left. Kesman kind of covered that off, and we'll have to wait and see then what the order is as they come down the hill through roller coaster right here. This final sequence of corners that heads back to the pit straight. And we'll wait and see who comes through in the lead of this bunch. Green car coming through is Musial. Then it's Geis. And it looks like Kesman still is in front of Ashley Freiberg, but not for much longer. This is shaping up to be the move right here.
Yeah, and if I were in the position now of David or Conrad, I would actually start working together. There's only a little bit more than 10 minutes to go, and both of them are still fighting for this P3 and P4 in class. So if they manage to work together, maybe they can keep Ashley behind, but she's really looking like she's charging through.
Oh, my goodness. She made the pass and is already on the attack here. Look how close she is getting. Can Conrad put a bit of a better defense on this time? He managed to hold her off until the last lap before, and boy, she is clipping the dirt everywhere using each inch of the track available.
Again, to recap the story, this is her former team. In fact, her former car that she is chasing in the form of Conrad Geiss. No hard feelings between Ashley and MDK. Just ran out of the budget to continue, but was thrown a lifeline by the Kelly Moss squad here for this weekend and hopefully for the rest of the season to keep that championship bid alive. The reigning 991 class champion moving up to 992 this year. She's had a strong year, does have the one win, and now looking to add another podium, but she has 2 passes to make and only 9.5 minutes plus 1 lap to do it.
Somebody shortly in front of this group kicked some dust up there through the middle of Oak Tree. So didn't seem like there was a car stop. They must have gotten away with it, but that is a scary one. Very tight behind Conrad. Now going to look off the left-hand side. Wow, braking way later. Conrad has to allow her through. Freiberg is now into 4th in class. Can she catch Musil? She has much more time than she did last time, as there is 9 minutes left to go.
Can she? Yes, I think she can. We've seen that over the course of the last 2 days. It's just a question of when at this point, and I don't think it's going to be too much longer. The pace is in that car. She's been running a couple seconds quicker than the 2 that she's been battling, and she's been in traffic much of this race. The only question is there enough time to do anything more than that? And I think without a safety car intervention, 3rd is probably the best she can hope for here today. And you know what? Sometimes you just have to maximize your day. Get the most points you can. This race was scuppered in turn 1, lap 1, but she's done a good job to recover and could be looking at back-to-back podiums.
Cutting back and forth, trying to open things up here to get by on Dave Musil 2.0. He goes a little bit wide. This is going to compromise him, but it's got to be single file through the snake. I don't think she's got the run to try and go side by side up into the climbing S's. She is going to show herself in the mirrors just to remind him that she's there, then gets back into line. And my goodness, this has been something of a Hollywood script this weekend for the GT3 Cup races. And she's going to once again try and weave back and forth as the defensive line is taken down into Oak Tree by Dave.
Dave goes defensive there into the braking zone for Oak Tree. Looks like his exit was compromised, though. You could see her starting to close in. Which way will she go? The left side looks like it's covered off. She's going to try and force it up that way anyway. This is going to be interesting. Top of the hill approaching roller coaster, but I don't think that there's much anybody can do about it. Freiberg is through. She's up to 3rd.
Hopefully she didn't lose too much time because David was driving very defensive there. So it will be a race to the finish now, but just 7 minutes to go if she will catch P3 overall.
That'll be Mark Bowden about 4 seconds or so up the road, at least last time, by at the line. For reference on P2, Bocuse was about 33 seconds up from her. So not sure that she's going to be able to chase him down in just a handful of laps. Still, it's been a stunning pair of drives for Ashley Freiberg, coming back with a different team after last round just a few weeks ago at COTA. Speaking of Paul and Jared, they are still up at the front, still running Jared in the lead, Paul in second. The gap is extended to about 4 seconds between the pair of them, but I'd have to say that it has shown much better pace this time around. Wow, a little wide there from Dave. I think he almost lost the spot to Conrad.
Yeah, he's been on the ragged edge, hasn't he, over the last few laps? We've seen that. He's driving really hard right now. Don't know how much he's got left under him, and that could compromise him then in this battle with Conrad Geiss, who would desperately like to get up one more spot to get to 4th. It's been a good weekend of recovery for him, too, as much as we talk about what Ashley has done. Conrad, to go to the backup chassis and have good results the way he's had, and is shaping up to have, at least here in race 2, that would be a solid weekend all around.
Yeah, Luke, how hard is it when you have a big wreck like that in practice where you write off a car to bounce back and be fast when it comes to the race?
Well, I think that's really where the drivers basically make the difference between them. So to flip that mindset and just to jump in the car and again focus on your tasks, I think this makes a good driver, or this distinguishes a good driver from an average driver. So actually it's a nice way of showing that here, to prove it to yourself, to your team, to everyone watching this. So actually, yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Just some impressive mental fortitude coming out of this new driver. And he's still knocking on the door for a 4th place, tying his potential best finish of the season. They'll tick off yet another lap. Now 5 minutes plus 1 lap to go. He's right there, and he's going to send it. He'll get down to the inside. They'll go 2 by 2 through the corner. The question is, who is going to come out ahead between them? Looks like it is going to be Conrad Geisen. Maybe 2 positions lost here for the green and black machine.
Yeah, Kesman working around the outside, trying to build a buffer because he's in a battle for position 2 with Gilliland, who just had a big slide there as he tried to put the power down with a lot of steering in that car. He's stuck now behind the Musial car, which is bad news for Gilliland, who looked like he was threatening Kesman for position in the Masters class. Those two are fighting for 2nd and 3rd, but now they've got an out-of-class car in between them.
Yeah, we can't lose sight of the podium positions there for the Masters, as that could still change around in these last couple laps. Meanwhile, they'll go through South Bend over that blind crest once again into Oak Tree. And this appears to be Ashley actually getting up to Mark Bowden now.
Yeah, she made up 2.5 seconds last lap, and the gap is 2.6 seconds. So with 4 minutes to go, this will be a really exciting end to this race.
Guess she just wasn't content with a 3rd in class. She wants that 3rd overall in this race. We'll see how hard Mark fights it, especially with the gap that he has to those cars behind. He doesn't necessarily need to try to hold her up.
Well, Joe, there's that special Apexin award that goes to the driver that picks up the most positions in a race, and Ashley thought she had it yesterday, but 2 things were going against her. Number 1, race 1 of the weekend, that award is handed out in the Cayman race, and the second part of it is she wasn't eligible for it anyway because a penalty is what caused her to start at the back. Today, she's again probably passed the most cars. It is the day that we handed out for the GT3 Cup class, but because it's based on positions gained based on grid position, I don't think she's going to win it today either.
No.
But morally, she's won it in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We need a special, the Freiberg Award or something like that for best recovery after getting knocked to the back, something like that.
Yeah, definitely an impressive drive from her. So hopefully now with the time to go, she can make up for a good show. But also I'm looking forward to see whatever Mark can do. Actually, coming over start finish, she already passed Mark. I think we missed that. So she's now in the hunt, but I think she wants to consolidate. There's a 35-second gap up to Paul. So right now she's hit the mark, I think, or where she's going to end up for the rest of the race. So, no, great drive by her.
It's absolutely been fantastic. That is for sure. And saw a close battle here coming down the backstretch, trying to make out who those 2 were. There is our leader. 2 minutes to go as he crosses the line. Jared Thomas. That's going to be close then on, I guess that's going to be 3 laps left?
I believe it'll be this lap and, well, yeah, I think you're right. This lap and 2 more afterwards, yes.
Yeah, they're running about 149s up at the top. Well, 150s right now. So 10 seconds to spare. Should have enough time to get that extra lap in. Always having to do math, not the best thing to ask of commentators. This is that battle I was talking about a little bit earlier. And I was trying to figure out, is that maybe Miller?
And Hinkle, possibly?
Oh, I think you're right.
No, that wouldn't be right. Sorry, that's the wrong class. So, no.
We'll figure it out in a bit. But regardless, it looks like they got a little bit of a tussle starting to brew out there. One driver pulling off to the side and allowing a couple of them through.
Is that Kesman who's off the pace? It's a silver car, and Tim certainly had been in a silver car and had been up towards the front of this field, so we'll have to see.
We crossed the line in 6th.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't think so. So this is Ashley. Oh, you know what? I wonder if this is It's actually Ashley coming upon lap traffic. Yes, that is lap traffic right there. I think that may have been Francisco de Jesus, actually, that she just went by from the 991s.
Now made that look easy, didn't get held up too much. It looks like she's still pushing here. I love, again, this section here, 100 miles an hour as they crest this hill, blind over the crest, and then back to power as soon as the car's pointed in the right direction. Just a spectacular, breathtaking piece of asphalt.
It really is, as our leader crosses the line, just about as we said, with 10 seconds left to go. So 2 laps left in this race coming up through the horseshoe.
White flag next time by.
There
to
we
your
go.
Current leader car 296. White flag.
Confirmation from our race control, letting them know to get out that white flag, get it ready. The leader's still dealing with these lapped cars. That definitely a skill all its own.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think, Luke, you brought up an interesting point early in the show talking about Ashley's drive through the field yesterday. A lot of these drivers she's around are new, and she doesn't know them. She doesn't know their tendencies, and that is a real challenge as she's coming through lap traffic, going up against people she's really not had much experience going wheel-to-wheel with.
Yeah, exactly. But as you can see, she managed well. I think she also learned compared to yesterday. Yesterday, she made it up to 3rd in class, but I believe it was 8th overall. Now she really made the most out of it. Also, I think it helped that we had a full green race, which is also props to all the drivers, actually, for that. So no intervenence. So, I think definitely, once again, I can't say it enough, but good job by her.
Yeah, you make a good point about the being caution-free, because our GT3 Cup race also had no cautions. So I guess some bragging rights for those drivers over the Caymans, who saw 3 over the course of their 2 races.
At turn 14 under review.
And then we see Jared Thomas again in screen. I think we really didn't talk much about him this race, but really what he's doing, it's super impressive, driving away from such a competitive field still. So much time. He's really driving solo races out here, but he's doing a very good job and very basically everything that he has to do.
1 lap to go. White flag being given to Jared Thomas. We got a chance to ride on board with him a bit to see what it's like from on board one of the quickest cars. Not the quickest car. Paul Bocuse still holds that fastest lap of the race by the same gap I had mentioned before of about 0.04 of a second. Now on screen, is this a battle for position farther down the order? I think, yeah, because Jared's coming up to this right now.
Looks that way. So he's got some lap cars that are in a fight of their own. His lead to Paul Bocuse is 6.5 seconds. So it's not like he can totally back out of it here and just take it easy behind these 2 lap cars. We'll see how he elects to deal with this. Jared, of course, in addition to driving, he's the team owner. The JTR in JTR Race Engineering is Jared Thomas Race Engineering. So he's got a lot of responsibility on his plate here in addition to just driving the car, but looking after his team and his crew. They've got a car in the Cayman class as well with Nick Schaefer, who had a good weekend here this weekend. Jared's an impressive guy with a great racing resume, having won in championships in MX5 Cup. He also holds a motorsports engineering degree from Purdue University in Indiana. So he is all about racing. It's his life's blood. And you can see he's pretty aggressive here working the traffic. Wow, that was a close call on the final lap, Joe.
He could have given the race win away because Paul was only about 6 seconds behind. He could probably back off if he wanted to. That was a battle for position between Manship and Ammon a little bit farther down. Out of the final corner and to the finish line, Jared Thomas going to go back-to-back once again, returning to the top step and winning in GT3 Cup.
Checkered flag car 296.
Well, perfect weekend from Jared to sweep it. Really was never troubled. Bocuse did close in with that traffic there on the final lap. Ends up 4.5 seconds behind in the 3rd spot. And now we wait for Ashley Freiberg. What a great job to come back from deep in the pack for her once again. 2 days in a row she's had to charge from the very back and ultimately finishes on the podium in 3rd, or at least she's due to, as long as everything goes according to plan here on this final lap. But to give you an idea of just how commanding the lead was for the top 2, we're still waiting on our 3rd place car to come by.
There she is just now. 3rd place for Ashley Freiberg, shortly followed, I believe, by Mark Bowden. There he is coming up to the line. What a fantastic win for the 246 in the Masters. And Conrad Geis tying his best finish in the series with 4th in class. Tim Kesman coming into the series with another podium, finishing P2.
Pro-Am, cars 296, 271, and 222. That's 296, 271, and 222. Car 267. You are at that car as well, car 267.
So a little bit of race control, letting them know who needs to come in. Ooh, that was a close battle across the line between a few of them. It looked like Therese Lelou fighting with a couple other cars outside of her class, unfortunately for her.
Yeah, Niels Meissner, who won in 991. Good bounce back for Niels. He won on the road yesterday, but it went away with a post-race penalty. But he gets back on the top of the box here today, heading home. Tony Melito, who had the win yesterday, benefiting from the misfortune for Niels.
So Frank Vitiello and looking for the 275, Shane Leathers, apparently under review for an incident earlier in the race. Not sure what exactly it was, but we'll try and track that one down. In the meantime, looks like everybody has crossed the line. So the racing is done for this weekend, but the show is not over. We'll be back in a bit for the podium ceremonies. In the meantime, let's go through our finishing order provisionally. Jared Thomas with another great win out there. Just a little scare at the end. Otherwise, it was clean sailing for him. Paul Bocuse was in second as Ashley Freiberg collects a second podium, both times having to put in ultra work for that. Mark Bowden taking the victory in Masters, his 4th overall, with Conrad Geis finishing P5 and Tim Kesman finishing 6th. He's on the podium for the Masters along with John Gilliland down there, who finished 7th overall. Dave Musial 2.0 is going to take P8. Scott Blend was 9th, and Jody Miller was 10th. Ryan?
Niels Meissner got the win in 991, adding to that points lead. Finishes 11th overall, but first in the 991 class. Therese Lelou comes home 12th, and it's Rob Walker. Tony Melito, 2nd in 991. Frank Vitiello, Shane Leathers, who had that issue late in the race. We heard that incident was under review. Provisionally 16th overall, ahead of Eric Lapp, Grady Willingham, John Manship, and Dan Ammon in 20th. Looks to be Thomas Herb will come home 3rd in the 991 class, back in 21st overall. Francisco De Jesus just behind in 22nd. Greg Shermer 23rd. And Joel Johnson, who was involved in that incident on the first lap with Ashley Freiberg, did not finish this race, will be credited with 24th. And that's a big hit for Joel, who's in the middle of a championship battle himself. Well, Joe's on his way down to the podium. We'll wrap things up here briefly. Luke Hartog, thank you so much for coming up and sharing your insights. Best of luck to you in your Carrera Cup season here in North America, as well as in GT World Challenge Europe, going for that Bronze Cup title in a big race at the 24 Hours of Spa coming your way in a couple of weeks. It's a busy time for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a pleasure commentating on this, so thanks for being here, and congrats to the winners.
Congrats to the winners indeed. Up next for Porsche Sprint Challenge North America is a trip to Watkins Glen. That's in a few weeks' time. Both the Cup cars and the Caymans will be there next week. The Sprint Challenge USA West Championship will be back in action at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca on the support bill for the IndyCar Series, and Joe Peak will have your coverage of that next weekend. So, with that said, it's a final farewell for me and for Luke from high atop Virginia International Raceway. We'll take a quick pause, and when we come back, Joe Peak will have podium celebrations for the final race of the weekend here at VIR.
It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
taste it now.
It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com. It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy.
Finishing P2 today in the number 127 machine, Tony Melito. And our winner today in the number 152, Niels Meissner. Niels, congratulations on the win. I'm sure it left a few bitter feelings yesterday having that one taken away, but this one seems solid.
Yeah, I think it was. It's a bit of redemption for yesterday, and also felt like a nice way to bring some results to my dad, who's here. So happy Father's Day to my dad and all the other here.
That's a good sentiment. We have the 992s fighting around you once again. This seems to be a trend this season.
Yeah. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it hurts, but that's part of the game, and we manage it, and this time it worked out for us.
Well, congratulations on victory. That is our winner once again, Niels Meissner in the 991s. And of course, let's spray some champagne. Our 991 podium finishers for race 2 here at VIR.
This now takes us to the 992 Masters category. Finishing third today, driving the number 298, John Gilliland. Driving the number 218 car, Tim Kesman. And our winner for the 992 match in the number 246, it's Mark Bowden. Congratulations, Mark. Fantastic drive. Let me just get in next to you here. Great stuff out there. It looked like those top two were a little bit outpacing you, but did you Pro-Ams at all?
No, and I wasn't trying to, you know, I'll act my age. You know, kids said we're not if you don't come home without a win, so I took it seriously. And no, you know, it was a tough race because I was on my own and just keeping focus. It's much easier racing somebody than it is just driving around and making sure you got a 5-second gap and you're maintaining it. So car was great. The Yokohama tires are great. Thanks to Porsche, Fall Line for a great car, and all my teammates for a great weekend.
Do you get to pick the restaurant?
Yes, I do.
All right.
It's not going to happen anyway. I'm getting in too late.
All right.
Give me a beer. I'll be happy.
Well, I think you'll get to enjoy some champagne first. That's your winner, Mark Bowden. Let's hold on. And it's not cold beer, but it's cold champagne instead. Congratulations to our 992 Masters winners. That brings us to our Apexon Award. This goes to the hard-charging driver of the race today. It's car number 245, Scott Blend. Congratulations to Scott Blend for today's Apexon Award. And now it's time for the 992 Pro-Am podium. Doing a repeat of yesterday, climbing through the field. And third, it's the 222 of Ashley Freiberg. Up at the front. Even though he was second place for the second time this weekend, it was much closer this time for the 271 of Paul Bocuse. And our winner, capturing many wins this season, it's the 296 of Jared Thomas. Jared, congratulations. We were talking in the booth about the rules on the tires on new versus old. Some of us were theorizing whether or not you took the old tires today or new tires yesterday. You're willing to divulge which was the case?
New tires today. We always run new tires in the race too.
Interesting. So, Paul, keeping you a little bit more honest, even though it was the new tires. It seemed like within that 4 to 6 second gap, things were being kept honest. Were you watching your mirror at all?
Yeah, I was, because this place is a pretty on edge. One mistake and that goes away pretty quickly.
Lastly, that last lap through the lap traffic looked a little hairy. Did that scare you?
I definitely had to be a little easier than I probably wish I could have, because I just couldn't push as much. I just kind of let those guys race out their battle. But I also want to put a special thanks in here to my dad. Happy Father's Day. This is a sport that me and him been doing for a long time, so nothing better to get a win on Father's Day.
Great stuff there from winner Jared Thomas in the 992 Pro-Am. And for the last time this weekend, let's spray the champagne. Thank you so much for joining us here at Virginia International Raceway for the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America by Yokohama. We'll be back in 1 week's time for the USA West Series at Laguna Seca and for the North America Series in a few weeks' time at Watkins Glen International.